Good evening, everybody. We've got a little bit to talk about before we get into the good stuff. The main thing, or I guess the first thing I wanted to talk about, the local store near me, great store called Games for Life in Lake Orion, Michigan. Here, they actually got their load of StarCraft stuff in. So this is all their two-player starter sets and whatever. And I'm like, huh, that's really cool. So apparently they're going to have that for release on Monday. So I don't know. I'm looking for a new itch to scratch. I don't know if I don't know if I should. I probably shouldn't. But yeah, looks interesting. So there's that. The only real news there's been since since yesterday, since I covered all the memes and stuff, news that I made yesterday, I actually got there's actually this that popped up. So Catalyst Labs AI investigation. So there was power up those mechs. That's actually what I was going to do. So give me 1 second. I'll actually pull up kind of what he's talking about. Master unit list trailer. Let's see. Game Labs. That would be funny if they took that shit down. Oh no, they did. Okay, sweet. So here we go. So let me turn the BGM off. So this article, this thing that we're covering, is actually going to be related to this little badger right here, which is the animated master unit list trailer for the master unit list overall. So
grab your neuro helmet.
By the way, I like this guy's audio because it's shittier than mine. Like that's really impressive.
Force building in the inner sphere is about to change forever. No more juggling 10 open tabs, rulebooks, and handwritten sheets. The all-new master unit list was built from the ground up for pure speed. Find any unit, filter by era and faction, and pull official stats in a split second.
See, this part here is where everybody was watching this and they were like, damn, this shit looks like ass and it also looks like AI.
Need cards? You can now print custom Alpha Strike cards for every single unit type. Mechs, vehicles, aerospace, and infantry. Plus full random assignment tables to roll up era-accurate lances on the fly.
Now this is kind of like the moving still frame things that we saw in the harebrained schemes games. So this is not really. This is not. I don't think this part is not AI. This part looks pretty scuffed as well.
And when it's time to create your force, the new builder handles all the heavy lifting, auto-calculating your point values and adding pilot records and custom cards to your.
So I don't necessarily know that there's any more. Yeah, there's this part too. Again, just the way that the motion is done and whatnot, it just looks very AI to me.
Deeper tactical tools, zero friction. Your next game starts here. Command your force, launching in August.
All right, so that's kind of the genesis of this little article, which was written by Marco Mazzoni, Catalyst Game Labs art director. One of the most difficult things about making or enjoying art in these times is how often intense scrutiny on our process. I've always believed that how art is made can be just as important as the final result. A truly unique piece can have everything asking yourself, how did they a truly unique piece can have you asking yourself, how did they make that? Right. Yep. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Um, However, the proliferation of generative AI, the the tone of that curiosity has started to shift from wonder and excitement to suspicion and skepticism. The technology has only gotten more convincing as it advances, and unless it's disclosed, it can sometimes be incredibly difficult to tell whether or not something was made with AI. So we often rely on our gut instinct that something feels off. Unfortunately, that's a flawed method which can put a target on real human artists who happen to make mistakes as humans often do. So we ask our fans and community to be careful in attempting to determine whether something is made with generative AI, bring up any concerns that they may have with respect for all involved in the discussion. When our MUL promotional video launched last week, it included several animated illustrations from our core rulebook and core box sagas booklet. Almost immediately, we began to receive messages that something looked odd about these animations, and there was suspicion in the form of generative AI used to make them. I did not have the opportunity to review the animations before release. That's a big red flag. You are the fucking art director, and nobody sent you this video. Like, hey, take a look at this. Can you take a look at this real quick? Make sure this is okay, meets our standards, Mr. Art Director, because that's your fucking job. So at that point, I was unaware of the exact process that was used to create them. I agreed that there were some uncanny aspects to the MUL animations that I could not explain, and after discussing it further with Randall, Catalyst's creative director, it was determined that further investigation was warranted to confirm everything was human made. So that's wild. For a bit of background, during my time as an art director at Harebrained Schemes, I worked closely with motion graphic artists to develop the animated cinematics used in our cutscenes and promotional materials for Harebrained Schemes Battletech and Lamplighters League. So while I'm not a motion graphics expert, I do have a fair understanding of the work that goes into animating a 2D illustration. Environmental and combat effects like smoke, fire, lasers, sparks, etc. in Adobe After Effects are all trivial to achieve in the right hands and can breathe life into a static shot. The flashy effects we see in the MUL video seemed completely reasonable and to achieve using these techniques, so I had no concerns there. Yeah, yeah, dude. I don't know. He's the art director, and like they didn't pass him this. Like that's a huge red flag. I know the process has limitations and some strange distortions can occur during blending between frames, tweening, or when an asset is being stretched too far beyond the original shape. This is particularly true for non-organic forms like our mechs. For more convincing results, we would prepare our illustrations and meticulously organized Photoshop files to deliver to our animator. The more careful we arrange our layers, the more flexible our animator had to push the limits of the action. Since I directly handled the final PSDs for all the images used here, I know that most of them have not been prepared for this kind of work, so some distortions would be expected. So that's interesting. Oh yeah, no, it's like AI is like it's like Twitch right now. If you're on Twitch, you have to actively every stream you have to opt out of having AI skim your streams. It's not an opt-in thing, it's an opt-out thing, and you have to opt out every stream. Otherwise, uh, because they knew that if you had to opt in, nobody would opt in. So the artist statement. To answer the big question, no generative AI video models or AI assets like Runway, Sora, Luma, Photoshop, Firefly, Generative Fill were used in any of these clips. Everything was animated in After Effects and prepped in Photoshop using standard 2.5D parallax, manual clean plate cloning, keyframes, and procedural vector graph effects. Full disclosure, I have 20 plus years of video production background. I am not a motion designer by trade. My main focus lately is in UI, UX, and product management. I don't use these After Effects tools after every day. I'm definitely not a Battletech lore expert. On top of that, I was working under an extremely tight deadline of only a couple of days to turn the hype video around. And trying to maximize coolness factor for the video on short notice, I took some artistic liberties for visual flair and apparently made a few keyframing compositing errors in the process. For this project, I exclusively used native Adobe procedural tools like vector mesh deformation, layer parenting, and blending modes to transform the original source artwork. None of these tools use generative diffusion models. So that's really interesting on that project that is on teaching AI to read expiration dates. Just had them expire 12/31/25. Jeez. So basically, so it sounds like there's multiple failure points here, which is just typical of Catalyst, where it's the art director, the guy that directs your art for your fucking game, he didn't get this before they pushed it out. And then the artist was given like 2 days to turn around a hype video. So it's like, so those are two huge issues right there. The third issue being from management saying, hey, you need to turn this around like right the fuck away. So that's stupid. So, and it goes on to explain like how each of these shots were composited. And honestly, a lot of the stuff is too technical for me because I don't use Photoshop, I don't use After Effects, I don't use any of that shit. So all this is, if you want to read this at your leisure, it's the link is in my on my Facebook page under that post. But basically, it breaks down like what everything is, and it actually shows uh, where it is in After Effects and how that actually works. So proof of life that this was actually done by a human and not AI. So good on them for actually having Marco say, look, this is unique from a number of perspectives. One, we have Marco Mazzoni, who's basically saying, "Hey, I didn't get this," which sounds like mea culpa avoidance to me, but at the same time, like I get it. Like that's his job, right? So he's like, yeah, I wasn't given this, and then when I did look at it, I realized that what we were trying to do based on my time at Harebrained Schemes, and then they actually got the artist to come in, unnamed artist. So like, bro, why don't you give your artists credit? Like, why don't you get this guy some exposure and do some more work? Get him some more work. And then you only gave this poor guy like 2 days to turn this shit around. And then all this was done on the hustle, and none of this was done with any foresight or actual, you know, good sense of timing. So that kind of explains what's going on with that. Um, so that's really all I had for the non-ghosts of Timkovichi stuff. Let's go. So let's see. Oh, I forgot to turn the BGM on. All right. So we've got Ghosts of Timkovichi. So like I do in every stream with Ghosts of Timkovichi. Oh boy, what they touch? Oh, boop. All right. I go over kind of a summary of the book so far, and it's pretty diabolically bad. So we have the prologue. Calendar Kell gets introduced, dropping onto Temkevici with a bunch of troops, and meet Brian Young slash Tom Waits in the um, guise of old Tom Frost, trying to write music in a dead city, in a city that was destroyed by the Jade Falcons because he's a ghoul. He basically says, "Hey, are you here to liberate us?" And she goes, "Lol, no." She drops off a monument and leaves, despite the fact she brought enough firepower to actually stomp out the Jade Falcons that we learned were still on the planet before the Lyrans showed up. So it's like, damn, okay. So I guess this is why we have to have a book, because Calendar Kell just decided to fuck off. That's great. And then the next few chapters, we're introduced to Colonel Mallory and his crew of misfits called the Ghost Dogs, and they're working for a company in the hinterlands to drive out the last Jade Falcons on a planet called Kirkcaldy. Turns out it was 3 Jade Falcon teenagers who were SIB cadets. So they take them capture. So they captured them. Um, then they get a notification from Calendar to come back to Ark Royal, come back home. And then Mallory tells his crew that are the Ghost Dogs, most of them who were actually Kellhounds, that they were Kellhounds. like, okay. Like, why is this? This is like, it's very implied during the book up to this point that this is an open secret. And so, anyway, so they get to Ark Royal. My people need me. I must leave you. Exactly. So he gets to Ark Royal. Calendar is like, hey, you're going to go to Timkovichi and let them determine their own way, if they want to join us or if they want to join the Ark Royal Liberty Coalition. And Mallory also gets told his son Keith is coming with him. And when she sends Keith with him, she doesn't give Keith his mech. Why? Don't know. It's never addressed, which is a recurring theme in this book. So reuniting with his son causes him all this angst because Mallory's written like a woman and refuses to take accountability as conflict avoidant, which is perfect when you're running a mercenary unit. You really want that to have somebody wishy-washy. So Hank finds out as they're on the way to Timkovichi that the Steiners are already moving in on one of the cities there on Timkovichi, and the Jade Falcons are responding. And nobody knows if the planet has fallen to the Steiners or if it's still being held by the Jade Falcons or if the conflict has even happened yet. So that's 9 days ahead of time. They've got 9 days of lead time, and they do nothing to proactively plan for this. Chapters 9 through 11 are terribly written mech fighting with no regard for tactics that a player or battle tech might recognize them. But we did get to meet in chapter 12 Nighthawk's the man, the myth, the legend, old Tom Frost, my guy. This looks like Pretty Little Liars. I have some really important information. Oh, look, I have a manicure appointment. Bye. I've never seen that show, but I will trust you. Mookie dog. So Tom Frost, it turns out, is the spider in the center of this web, and he's basically admits to publishing false information and sending it to all the factions on the planet to keep them off balance. So he's like a self-admitted yellow journalist, which is wild, considering that Brian Young used to write for BuzzFeed, which was yellow journalism at its finest. So chapters 12 through 14, they basically see Brian Young engaging in this millennial food coffee fetishism where nothing of consequence can happen unless somebody's eating something or somebody's drinking coffee or somebody's doing something, and the food is being commented on. It's like, shut up. Anyways, basically Mallory and his mech warriors are given information to contact a resistance force on the planet. Calendar didn't tell us about a resistance. Tom Frost didn't tell Calendar about a resistance on the planet. There was no mention of a resistance in the dispatch they got from Tom Frost going on to planet. So this is literally the first we're hearing about it. Dog, but Studio Ghibli food looks amazing, low key. Anyways, so what they do is they say, well, we got to contact these resistance groups. So they send 3 groups out, basically one each with one of their clanners to scope out, where everybody is, where the Lyrans are, where the Jade Falcons are, and send this guy Rufo and what's his name? I think his name is what's his name? I can't remember the guy's name, but Rufo and his buddy, they go bar hopping trying to pin down these mercenaries that seem to be working for the Lyrans. So this clandestine task is basically they wander around the town saying, hey, we're looking for the resistance. Have you seen them? And yeah, So they finally meet some people, find out there's more Falcons than they initially thought, and there's a lot more Lyrans than they initially thought. And then chapter 15, Stained with Blood and Whiskey, which is a great chapter title if you're a pizza cutter. It's all edge, no point. And chapter 15 is Brian's stab at writing a Roadhouse chapter, where, except like, imagine Roadhouse if it was written by somebody with brain damage. And they basically dig up the information on their on these mercenaries called the Agile Rabbits. And he does that by rizzing up a twink bartender, they, them. And this, trust me, like whenever this character gets on screen, they're not necessarily obnoxious, but at the same time, it's like really obnoxious with reading around the they, them pronouns. It's so stupid. So they get into a bar fight. They find out all these things. Rufo gets his connect with this ransom girl person. And then chapter 16, a more competent Peter Griffin. No, Peter Griffin is more competent than Brian Young. Chapter 16, admin chapter. Basically, Mallory and company figure out what they're going to do. Chapter 17, we get introduced to Mech Warrior Coot, the head Jade Falcon on Timkovichi, forced back a raid, in air quotes, by the Lyrans, in air quotes, which is basically a ruse to deliver Chingmai, one of the Jade Falcon Sib cadets that they had captured earlier in the book, to the Jade Falcons to say, hey, I want to defect, in air quotes, to the Jade Falcons so that she can be their inside person with the Falcons. 18, we get introduced to General Hellgate, she's mean, if you can't tell. the character named Hellgate, she's mean. So she gets word that Jade Falcons are attacking a fortified outpost, and they go to this fortified outpost, and it basically gets described like a Berlin flak tower, right? If you go on Google and look up Berlin flak tower, that's kind of what I'm picturing. So it's ringed with artillery and AA batteries and all this stuff, and somehow the ghost dogs blow it up from the inside. How? Don't know. Never explained. So this tears it for General Hellgate in chapter 18, or chapter 19. Oh no. So here we go. So chapter 19, they actually rescue the defecting Chingmai. So the chapter 17 was basically setting up like, hey, there's a raid on this thing. We got to go help these people out. They help them out. And it turns out that it was Chingmai. And she explains that the Lyrans are lining up to attack. So Mech Warrior Coot scrambles all of his resources. Chapter 20, Hatful of Rain, is probably the high watermark for this book because it's actually very decently written. It feels like old school BattleTech, wherein both sides are saying, okay, this is my situation. This is what I have to work with. This is where all the things that I have to do to make things work and plan and kind of do contingency. So it's like you have both people playing kind of blind chess, where like the Lyrans are like, well, given this situation, this is what we should do. Jade Falcons, given this situation, this is what we should do. So you have them kind of saying, okay, this is what we're going to do, and then we're gonna see who comes up on top. Chapter 21, Mech Warrior Coot gives a speech to his guys, which is really not very good. And he's going down to this mech bay, and he discovers Chingmai as the obvious traitor. Chingmai as being obviously a traitor. He shoots her, and he holds her in her arms and cries after giving her a dose of the Mozambique drill. So it's like, dude, really? Come on. This you've known this chick for like less than 24 hours, and you caught her spying, working for Desgra mercenaries, there should be no tears here. So, dude, I don't know, probably. Yeah, Keltos, exactly. So, and then chapter 22 and 23, this is war, and it's terrible mech fighting, basically. The Ghost Dogs attack the Lyran city held while the Falcons and Lyrans are squaring off. Basically, the Lyrans more or less just abandon the city that they're in, and they go fight the Falcons. And basically, the Jade Falcons and the Lyrans kill each other to death. Which, considering that the Jade Falcons only had like 5 operational mechs and the Lyrans had like a full company, I don't know how. They also have artillery, which is something I'm going to address later in this book, because I don't know that Brian knows how artillery works. So, chapter 24 is basically a padding chapter. Everybody talks about, like, yep, we did this thing, and it was really, we did this thing, and we beat the Falcons and the Lyrans, or the Lyrans and the Falcons beat each other, and we're just here to pick up after them. So that's cool. And then chapter 25 is about kind of memorializing all the dead freedom fighters they lost beating the Falcons and the Lyrans. I would have liked to have read about that. I would have liked to have read about the brave resistance rising up to defeat the Lyrans and the Falcons, but the book doesn't bring them up, so I'm going to ignore them, just like the book does. And then chapter 26, they have a really funny interaction where Colonel Mallory's son basically points out all the plot holes and how shitty the writing in this book is so far. It's really kind of refreshing, but at the same time, it's like, if you're creating something, you don't have a character specifically pointing out the bullshit plot holes in your book, but he did that. So Mallory gets to meet with one of the resistance leaders who used to be a Cowhound, who was kind of a stay behind after the Jade Falcons nuked one of the cities there, and they are basically they get into a shouting match about, hey, the Lyrans are sending a full regiment to attack the planet to try to hold it. We should go to ground and wage a guerrilla warfare, or but Bolger is like, no, we just got these cities back, we're going to fight for them. And Mallory is like, that's stupid. And in one of the few instances where I agree with this titan of intellect, yeah, that it would be the move. If you were gonna fight a full regiment of Lyrans, yeah, you kind of have to rely on guerrilla warfare to do that. So, basically, that's all what happens. And then chapter 27, which brings us up to today, which is Hell Broke Loose, where indeed a moderate bit of heck does break loose. So, during the tail end of the last chapter of chapter 26, Mallory and Bolger are like, well, we accounted for the Jade Falcons, we accounted for the Lyrans, but there's this mercenary company of like hover vehicles and like one lance of mechs creeping around that were working for the Lyrans, and they're kind of MIA. So Rufo, one of the guys from the earlier chapters who kind of is trying to hook up with the bartender, they them person, he goes to this person as kind of like his, because she's her, they, I don't know, I hate fucking pronouns, just bullshit. It's implied that she's a girl, so I'm just going to call her a fucking she. So which is what this book should have done to begin with, because reading this goddamn chapter where Rufo and this Ransom character that he's kind of talking about, it makes it really fucking difficult to read this bullshit. So I'm just going to call the character's name is Ransom. I'm just going to call her a she. So Rufo gets to kind of Ransom's bar where she works, and he says, hey, where'd these guys go? And she's like, oh. And he's like, so they just left? And she was like, yeah. And she's like, oh. So they go back and forth, and they basically determine, like, hey, these guys, they left. And the place that they were going to go was a place called Vale Point. And he's like, huh, that's weird. I've never heard of that place because you know, I've been stuck fighting and killing people for the last couple of weeks. So she's like, well, I'll lead you up there. So, and this back and forth, this really awkward, stilted conversation going back and forth between these two characters. It's just awkward. It's just awkward, and it's wordy, and it's needless, and I'm irritated, and I'm tired. So Rufo shook his head. Never heard of it. It's where everyone goes camping. The snowpack up there melts into the river, and that's the drinking water down here. You've never hiked up to Vale Point before? Ransom, I've been on planet for like 3 weeks, and I've spent most of it fighting or gathering intel to fight. I've never been up there. Can you tell me how to get there? So he's having one of his characters pointing out how stupid his other characters, how stupid one of his other characters are or is. And it's, I don't know, I'm just at a loss for words, because this whole interaction between this person and Rufo is just, I just don't like these chapters. Rufo is a terrible character. He tries to be the lovable scamp. He tries to be the rogue, but he is literally awful. And I hate every chapter that he's fucking in. It's almost comically bad how stupid this guy is, and why anybody would trust him with anything other than sweeping the goddamn floor. So she basically says, "Okay, let's go. I'll take let's take off. Let's go find these guys." So she gets on her motorcycle, because of course she has a motorcycle because she's cool. So she gets on a motorcycle, and Rufo jumps inside with his boy Scotty, who's also one of the ghost dogs, and they're in this hover car, and they're following up the mountain. That's when Rufo heard the staccato report of an internal combustion engine roaring to life. From around the back of the shabby row of buildings came a motorbike with high handles and massive studded wheels. The engine casing on the bike was a glossy, pearly green, too light and lacquered for what Rufo thought of as Jade Falcon colors. It was a gorgeous machine, and riding atop it like a beast from the abyss was Ransom, even more breathtaking than the bike itself. Although their head and face was completely covered in a reflective black helmet that caught the light in a purplish rainbow, Rufo could tell it was Ransom without a second glance. Jesus Christ, this fucking ugh. So the entire chapter, it's like, dude, it's like these 3 chapters are basically these characters is Rufo fawning over this person and just being awkwardly thirsty. It's just terrible. So they get so they're driving, and Rufo calls back to the ranch, basically saying, "Hey, we got a lead on these guys. We're gonna go find them." So then we have chapter break, and all of a sudden they get hit by artillery. Now, the Agile Rabbits are a mercenary hover company, because it's implying that Rufo is horny for this Ransom character. That's why Keltos. It's really, really stupid. So this Agile Rabbits, bro, that is literally every male character in this book. It's very fawning, femi energy. It's really obnoxious. So they get hit by artillery. Now the company with one lance of mechs attached to it. So it's like and I don't know that Brian Young knows how artillery works. This comes up quite a few times in this book. I think he thinks artillery is like the way it works in MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries, where it's just like an object on the ground that's just like everybody has, and the ammunition just comes magically from nowhere. So they're scaling this mountain, and the first thing they do is get hit by artillery, and it wipes out their truck, and it almost kills Ransom. So my question is, this is a civilian camping ground that the Agile Rabbits are on. It's a well-traveled road. They're in 2 civilian vehicles. Why the hell would they waste artillery on a hover truck in a motorcycle? Like, it's just I'm like, I don't see the logic there. Like, why would you dispense? Because they have infantry too, right? They have hover vehicles and APCs and stuff. So why wouldn't they just dispatch a hover like a Maxim or something? Why wouldn't they just send some infantry to go challenge them and round them up and send them back on their way? Why are they wasting artillery shells when they know they probably have an extended campaign ahead of us? But that implies that I'm thinking more about. Clearly, I'm thinking deeper about it than Brian Young ever did, right? So, and the fact that the book actually points this out, like, why are they shooting at us when we could have just been civilians? And it's like, I don't know. No, artillery shell isn't lost tech, but it is. It's an expendable resource, right? So they don't have any way to resupply those shells on planet. So every one of those shells they have to be careful with. So for me, when somebody is just like, oh yeah, they just got artillery, it's like, okay, where are they getting the shells? Where? That's it, you know. So basically, they're trying to figure out, okay, what are we going to do here? So we can either walk back to the town that we were in and pick up a ride, which is going to take hours, or they can hike up the mountain, finish the mission, and steal something from the. They can steal a ride from the Agile Rabbits, which is a lot to go right. 5,000 tons, they can carry like 1,000 shells. So here's the thing: when you look at the actual mechanics of the way dropship tonnage works, carry tonnage works in BattleTech, they can carry very little actually. Like I think, especially the most common ones that we see, like the Union and the Leopard, they have like barely enough cargo space for like foodstuffs and water, let alone mech armor, actuators, ammunition. It's toiletries for instance, like especially like when you're launching something into space, every ounce counts. So it's really weird that that they're just like, oh yeah, this fucking, especially in BattleTech, especially in this current crop of BattleTech books by authors that don't understand the realities of logistics, especially on an interstellar scale like BattleTech is. There's like, no, I got plenty of fucking ammo and artillery, whatever. When you had in other books earlier in BattleTech where that was an actual consideration, where they actually had to say, hey, we have to be careful about what we're shooting at, because if we don't, because we shoot at the wrong thing, then we're wasting ammunition, and we're not going to be able to replenish that information, ammunition, excuse me, unless we capture some more, or we bring some more in from outside. So they determined they're going to hike up the mountain, and they are going to steal a ride from the Agile Rabbits, and then report back to base. Which again seems like it seems like a lot to go right. So as they're kind of yakking about this and talking about this. Rufo asks, "How old are you?" 25. They were only 5 or 6 years younger than Rufo. Dog, do you not know your own age? Why 5 or 6 years? Like, do you not know? Do you not know how that works? Like, do you not know how math works, bro? Um, they were only 5 or 6 years younger than Rufo. So you were what, like 15 when the Jet Falcons took over? Yeah, and I'll be honest, I was on the street then. My parents didn't really like who I was, so I was dealing with other things. I didn't really care who was in charge. I was more worried about surviving on my own, you know? Fair enough. So so the implication is like my parents didn't like my they them life choices. Bleh. So like, Jesus Christ. Like in the middle of a fucking war zone, getting shot at by artillery. They get shot at by artillery again, and they barely make it out, and so they start climbing up the. Nope, it sure isn't. Not a lot. Yep. So they start climbing up the mountain, and then it cuts back to uh, the ghost dogs hanging out in Meyer, where they have again more pronoun bullshit. This MX Stonehawker. So it's a non-gendered way to address somebody as Mr. or Mrs. It's pronounced mix, MX. So it's MX period Stonehawker. Stonehawker owns a game store, like a tabletop game store. She's a Stonehawker. She's a dice seller. Wah, wah, wah. So the ghost dogs are basically trying to figure out, waiting for what's going to happen. They send, yes, Mookie Dog, indeed. So they send a message to the Lyrans, the Bolger character. He sends a message to the Lyrans saying, "Hey, we're fine here. We're all fine here now. Thank you. How are you?" Basically, tell them to fuck off. We've killed all the Lyrans here. We've killed all the Jade Falcons here. You know, we're just gonna rule ourselves. Please don't come and lean an entire fucking regiment on our planet. So they send that off, and they're waiting on a response. And that's what's funny is they say, "I imagine Tom Frost will have sent them a data packet of cherry-picked information." So basically, they're saying, "Yeah, our journalist is our scummy journalist friend is gonna do scummy journalist friend things," which is deeply, deeply hilarious and very telling that he's seems to be boldly rubbing that in everybody's face. And then Rufo, they have a radio, so Rufo reaches him out on the radio. Comms officer shook their head. "Audio only. Sounds like a pretty weak signal too, full of static, like an emergency handset." There was a thump in Raven's chest, her heart rate increasing. Rufo on an emergency handset was an indication of an average Rufo level snafu. Is he using op codes or names? Op codes. Raven took the headset and placed the speakers over her ears and adjusted the black dot of a mouthpiece over her lips. "Go for swagger." "Swagger, this is Mole Rat. It's good to use sunscreen, but staying out of the sun is better." That meant he was on an exposed and open line, and he knew there was every chance he was being monitored. He gave her a code signal for his location, and she was supposed to start heading his way, but it needed to not sound like it. She hated all of this cloak and dagger stuff, but she knew why it was necessary. "Blackmail says it's all about how you style the hair," Rufo said, an oblique but nonsensical reference to the agile rabbits that meant Ransom had informed Rufo of the whereabouts of the mercenary group. And since they were on an open emergency broadcast, Raven had to assume Rufo was in proximity to the agile rabbits. Then he offered the code that would lead her to Veil Point. "Really, Swagger, it's wild." The code was rudimentary, but it should keep the rabbits in the dark if they were listening. Boy, it would have been nice, Brian Young, Mr. Premier Banzai author, to actually have read that part. Instead, you're too fucking stupid to have actually figured out how to make all that shit work. So you just hand waved it away. So they figure out where that they're coming from, Vale Point, and the comms officer takes over, and they. Oh, that's the other thing I forgot to mention. Vale Point is on the Lonely Mountain, because basically Timkovichi is nothing but fucking Lord of the Rings references. Very cool. Very cool, Brian Young. Thumbs up. So they're having this back and forth. I'm like, well, the mercs are holding up there, and the message was a reinforcement request. So if I show up there with my lance, what's the most sensible route? You'll have problems with their artillery. They have a clear line of fire from any direction of approach to the summit. Doubt. Oh, dude, yeah, no. Tolkien would have been. Brian Young would have been like, "Oh my God, Tolkien, I love your work. It's been so influential. My pronouns are he, they." And Tolkien would have patted himself down, pulled his pipe out, struck a match, and lit it thoughtfully, and said, "My dear boy, I think you're quite mad, and you should go to an asylum and have a lobotomy." So they explain. So they get the Stonehawker woman, and they're talking about the situation, and then they escalate it to one of their other colonels, to Colonel Mallory, where they're talking about it, and like, well, what can we do about these agile rabbits? Well, we could buy them out. And the people from Timkovichi are like, no, they've been war criming us pretty hard. We're not gonna grease their palms any. And basically the colonel says, well, I've got kind of a blank check from Calendar Kell to add any operational expenses that I need to for this. So he's like, what if we buy them out? The people of Timkovichi don't have to spend a dime. I'll just buy them out. So it's like, there we go. So they're talking about this, and they're kind of going back and forth, and so they basically talk back and forth about what's going to happen. That's what they decide they're going to do. So they now keep that in mind, that they are going to say, hey, reach out to the agile rabbits and basically say, hey, we're going to buy you out, right? That is never communicated in this chapter, in chapter 27 or 28, excuse me. That is never communicated to Rufo, not directly. So they go down. So we're back to Rufo and his band of misfits. Chapter 29, High Pressure Zone. So they basically are figuring out, hey, we've just found the agile rabbits. We're going to present ourselves, and we're going to present ourselves, and we're just going to we're going to see if we can't negotiate with them. Now, keep in mind, they don't know or have not been communicated that this is the plan. So either they did find out about it after this chapter and it was not talked about in this before this chapter and it was not talked about, or they just cottoned on this plan themselves. So basically he's like, damn, this hiking up a mountain sucks. And he talks about like this stupid cartoon he used to watch when he was a kid. And finally he's like, well, I want to be a Rufo. I want to be Rufo Nguyen, or better yet, a Morgan Kell, or whoever could complete this mission with honor and impress Ransom Cameron. So Ransom's last name is Cameron. Every time he turned their name over in his head, he loved how cool it sounded. It just had a nice ring to it. Was it like Cameron, the Camerons? If this Ransom character turns out to be a long forgotten Cameron from the Starleague Cameron dynasty, I will literally shit myself on stream. If that comes up, I will take a big old deuce here on stream because I will not be able to process it, and because they'll be the single most stupid thing I've ever written a BattleTech book. So they're going back and forth, and they're talking. They're kind of talking back and forth, and they're trying to be like, well, we found him now. We gotta wave a white flag. So a flag for surrendering. It might make things a little easier. Keep me from getting shot, maybe. Looking over to Scotty, it didn't seem as though he was any closer to finding anything larger than a square bandage. And Rufo felt resigned to the fact that he was going to get shot. But then Ransom started unzipping their coverall. Under it was a white silken slip with no sleeves or straps. Take this, they said, pulling it off over their head and handing it to Rufo, who tried to avoid gazing at their chest while they zipped up their... So this is a chick. So, dude, it's a chick. It's a girl. So, stop it. Are you sure? Will it decrease the chances of you getting shot? Well, yes. Then take the damn thing and shut up. Unfurling it, it looked very much like a big silky square with a white flag. Perfect. He'd surrender to Ransom's flag any day. Mookie Dog, yes, there. So this Ransom person is a they, them, and they are androgynous in appearance. So Brian Young, so reading this section of the book makes it really fucking hard to follow because of the they, them pronoun bullshit. But after this part, it's quite clear that this is a chick. Like this is not a dude. This is a chick. This is not a twink. This is a chick. This isn't a femboy. This is a chick. So like, stop with this bullshit already. It's aggravating. It's hard to read. So, rising, Rufo stood tall over the foliage and raised the white slip over his head, waving it back and forth. There was no reason to think the agile rabbits wouldn't honor it, but that didn't mean Rufo wasn't still afraid that he was about to take a bullet to the face, a laser to the gut, or an arrow to the knee. The fucking shitty. Get it? It's a Skyrim reference, guys. It's fucking Skyrim. Y'all remember Skyrim? Yep. Teltos indeed. Yep, that's my reaction as well. He just needed to find the leader before they killed him. What was the guy's name? Arsino. So, for some reason, Jason Lebrano, 22233. I cannot impress upon you how actually that is a line in the fucking book. When I read that, I was floored. I was like, I was in awe that this fucking hack, this asshole, this pretender to the throne of being a nerd, actually included that in the book in the year of our Lord 2026. I swear to God, that's in the book. I have it highlighted. It's right there. Page 226, Ghost of Timkovichi, chapter 29, High Pressure Zone. And it's the one, Jesus Christ, I don't even know what paragraph it is because this book is written like dog shit. But yeah, that's a real thing. So basically, he's standing there waving this woman's slip underpants over his head, or like tank top or whatever it is over his head. He says, "I come in peace," Rufo shouted, waving Ransom slipped wildly in front of his face, doing his best not to flinch. He didn't want to show any fear, but fear filled him like a cup to overflowing. No response came except the clickety clack of a rifle slide racking. Rufo's ass clenched tight and he froze, except for his hand waving the white flag. A laser sight singed past Rufo's face. He felt the heat and cringed before dropping to the ground and raising the flag up over his prostrate head one more time. Serious, I'm here to surrender. I just want to talk. See? White flag. He didn't know what surrender was in French. Yeah, so that's the other thing. So these Agile Rabbit guys, he's written them as French because they're from the Federated Sons originally. Why he thinks that the Federated Sons, why everybody speaks French in the Federated Sons, or why everybody sounds like a lisping Bond villain that comes from the Federated Sons, don't know. It's never explained. But he had sneaking suspicion that surrender started as a word from a Romance language, so it just had that sort of a feel to it. Javot, surrender, he said, as though it might make any sort of difference. Another laser beam carved leaves from the branches above him, dropping their burning twigs on top of his head. Rufo panicked. Parley! I want to parley with General Arsenault. Take me to your leader. I come in peace, damn it, just stop shooting. By the time Rufo realized they heard him and actually listened, he was curled up in a fetal position with silken slip clutched to his face. He didn't even realize he was taking deep, grounding breaths into it. Vanilla and jasmine. Now is not the time, dude. So, yeah, it's just not an original thought ricocheting around in Brian's empty fucking head. So, it's just like, I don't know. I'm at a loss for words at this point. Because this character, he's a loathsome woman chasing. He's unreliable. He's a coward. On the edge of death, there's only cooning. So he's unreliable. He's loathsome. He's immersed. He's very much a lucre warrior. He's a skirt chaser, and he's a coward. So, what redeeming qualities does this guy have? Is he supposed to be funny? Because he's not fucking funny. He just comes off like a dumb screw up. It's like somebody took Jar Jar Binks and sucked all the charm out of it. So basically, the rabbits grab him. They pat him down. They send him off to. Excuse me. Sorry, I had to cough. So they send him off to their guy, this Arsenault guy, and so they go up and they talk to him, and so he gets sat down in this mobile HQ, and the guy says, "Captain Gwen," in a deep voice with that thick Fed Sons accent. "Welcome to the Agile Rabbits." Sometimes when I say Agile Rabbits, it's in French, but I'm not fucking with French right now. I just can't be bothered. Not for this fucking book. The man walked to the front of Rufo and sat down opposite him. The patch on his uniform, the black and blue night camo with matched rabbit patches, read Arsenault. General Arsenault. Rufo tried refraining from spinning in place on the chair and looking up at the guy. He didn't seem so impressive, but that magic trick with his name and rank was pretty astounding. How do you know who I am? It says so on your uniform. Rufo looked down and realized he was indeed in his downtime uniform, a simple coverall with rank, name, and unit patches. He deflated, and all that respect vanished back into stardust. Oh, right. So he's a dumbass. There's no redeeming feature about this character. Arsenault had a patchy beard and wore a boxy hat. He chewed an unlit cigar, and he alternated between his mouth and knuckles of his right hand as he spoke. You surrendered to have something to speak to me about? A deal, perhaps, no? So imagine... Yeah, exactly. So I apologize to anybody that speaks French or is French Canadian. Well, not French Canadian, but I apologize to any native French speaker, so I'm going to do my best bad French Bond villain impression. You surrendered and have something to speak to me about? A deal, perhaps, no? That's why I'm here. Then let us get down to business before I lose my patience, yes? Fine. I'm Rufo Gwynn. I'm a captain of the Ghost Dogs. We're a unit in the Kellhounds mercenary group. Rufo scanned Arseno's face for any sign of recognition of the Kellhound's name, but he remained unmoved and unimpressed. So much for that tack. We've been contracted by the Ark Royal Liberty Coalition to enforce the sovereignty of Timkovichi. That means removing the influence of the Jade Falcons and the Lyran Commonwealth and allowing them self-determination. Now, you were here being paid by General Helgate of the Lyran's Ark Royal Militia. As you're probably aware, she is an ex-person. She's no more. I feel like he wanted to go further and make that a full-blown Monty Python, like, his parrot has expired and gone to meet its maker. Like, I bet he wanted to do that, but for some fucking reason, he restrained himself from doing it, because he probably said, I made a Skyrim reference earlier in the chapter. I got to practice some fucking restraint. So good for him. She died in the fighting at Istari at the hands of the Jade Falcon, and also lost her stronghold in Maya. At the moment, there are no Lyran forces on Timkovichi. There is, however, more than a company of ghost dogs here, in addition to reinforced civilian elements and Kellhound reinforcements just 2 jumps away. Yet you are the one in zip ties. I don't know what this is. Is it coming off too Italian? Maybe? Hey, Tony, we got the fucking ghost dogs over here. Gabagool. Rufo raised his bound hands and let out a huff. If you knew what I had to offer, you'd have already let me go. Arseno grinned. I am no fool. The entirety of the 14th Lyran regulars just arrived at the jump point and are heading to the surface. Is this too Austrian? Am I coming off as Arnold? They're coming to the surface. Get out. Get to the dropship and do it now. They'll honor our contract and we'll join them. And the tables will, as they say, turn. You will all get rolled like a maris over Richard Cameron. Rufo wanted to cringe at the reference and was glad Ransom wasn't there to hear it. Arseno seemed like the sort who was in it for the blood as much as the lucre. He would make reference that would liken himself in a positive light next to that great portrayer. Hear me out, though. What if we bought out your contract? You get paid, the risk is gone, the locals already transmitted all documents of sovereignty up to the 14th. So he doesn't know that. How does he know that? That is not communicated to him at any point in this chapter. He also, at no point in this chapter, referenced being told that they were going to buy out their the contract for the Agile Rabbits. At no point was that ever relayed to him. There was no guarantee they would recognize the documents and sovereignty, though. That was the gamble, and Arseno knew it. He chomped on his cigar. You might as well get comfortable, mon ami. I do not make decisions without having all the information, and I will wait until I receive my offer from the 14th. I have already requested orders and even invoiced them. You do not realize the position you are in. And what about the ghost dogs already surrounding the mountain? Oh, I am aware of them as well, and have a plan to deal with them in the meantime. Arseno leaned over and pressed a button on the arm of his bolted-down office chair. Reno, if any mechs appear on radar, fire at will. Do not let anyone approach our position. Rufo hoped that it wouldn't include any civilians or others that might be snooping around in the mountains. All he could think about were Scotty and Ransom, but something in his face must have given it away. Arseno caught in his eye and looked right into it with a twinkle. And if anyone approaches the encampment, shoot them on sight. No more parley with anyone, yes? Affirmative, sir, a tinny voice said on the comm. The mercenary commander leaned back in his chair, and his gaze never leaving Rufo. Now, Captain Gwyn, together we wait. Jesus Christ. Like, when I was reading the character in my head, the Arseno character in my head, I was thinking to myself, yeah, he's kind of template bad guy. But like now reading it in the French accent, I'm like, bruh. It's so much fucking worse. It's so bad. it's like unreal. I have no words. I honestly, I'm out of words. I have none. I have no more. I have no words left for these fucking chapters. So, uh, basically, we're going on this weird mini adventure arc for these last three chapters of Rufo fucks everything up, and I'm sure there's going to be some sort of daring rescue from 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 this Cameron chick. And oh my god, there's still so much more of this book to go. So wait a second, we've got 30. Some of these chapters though are like insultingly short. There's only like a few pages left. There's only like so I'm on chapter 30. And hello, Williams. Hello. So I got 23 chapters left to go. I might have to start doing like 4 chapters at a clip because this is unbridled agony. This fucking book. But yeah, it's just exhausting. It's like Rufo fucks everything up and gets himself captured is basically what this arc is. And meanwhile, they send a message to the Lyran saying, "Pretty please recognize our sovereignty." So considering that there's like 22 chapters left in this book, I'm pretty sure I know how that goes. So, but yeah, so man, I am just plumb out of shit to say about this. This like these he does this thing where he does like 3 short chapters and then 3 long chapters and 3 short chapters and 3 long chapters. This was 3 really long chapters, and each of them were more dog shit than the last, and it was really a chore to chew through these. And I think the core issue is it comes in from the fact that they are focusing on Ransom and Rufo, who are 2 characters I just do not care about. The book wants you to care about them. They want you to care about this, whatever this budding, lustful romance is between them. I just don't. I'm not invested in these characters. Like, it would make no difference if Arsenault put a bullet in Rufo's brain and dumped them out the back of the mobile HQ. I do not care about these characters. There's no redeeming quality about them. So yeah, it's bad. It's bad. It's real fucking bad. I am very not impressed about these last 3 chapters. And oh man, it's just painful. It's just painful. But yeah, I am not a fan. I'm not a fan of this. It's not good. Man, I'm plumb out. So like the previous chapters, they were fun bad, right? So you could kind of riff on them and just make fun of them and that kind of thing. And that's one thing. But these chapters were they were long, they were wordy, the interpersonal, and I think one of the worst things that Brian Young does is he indulges in this rapid fire kind of like if you were to do like a stage play or like a back and forth with an actual human being, I think it would come off with that really shitty, quippy Marvel rapid fire boom 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 type humor. And in a book, it just makes it laborious to read, especially when the 2 characters that you are having do it, you don't know anything about them other than superficial character traits, like Rufo, for example. Rufo, I think he's emblematic of this entire book. He is a surface. Brian Young thinks that this character is a mile wide and a mile deep. He is like 6 inches wide and not quite a thimble deep. Like he's a pussy hound. He's Um, he relies on his luck. He's a fast talker. He's charismatic. But like all of these are surface things, and they are not a deeper investigation into who this character actually is. And the fact that he's constantly fawning over this chick, and I'm going to call her a chick because it's quite transparent that she's probably a female, considering he was like staring at her chest. So, combined with the fact that Brian Young is insisting to use the pronoun stuff for they, them for this character, makes it really fucking hard to read because every time my brain reads they, them, they, their, them, I think, oh, is he talking about Ransom and Scott? No, he's just talking about, and then like I'll read the rest of the sentence and I'm like, oh, he's talking about Ransom. And it makes it really difficult to follow and really unpleasant to read because it's just hard to keep track of. And he does this quite a bit when he uses like kind of the they them pronouns, not to identify a specific person, but like to identify like a group. And he'll do that right next to talking about the Ransom character. So like he'll use they, their, them, talking about the Agile Rabbits, and then he'll go back to in another sentence talking about Ransoms, their, you know, Ransoms, their, they, them, and it's like this is fucking laborious to read. This is unpleasant. I am not enjoying this at all. So it's like it's just tedious. It's just an exercise in tedium and unpleasantness. So I did not enjoy these chapters at all. The fact that they were like that they gamely assumed that the Lyrans are going to be like, oh yeah, no, we'll fuck off. You know, it's clearly like you can't really do that and then have like another fucking 20 chapters of book. You can't say, well, this is what we're gonna do, and you know you're teeing up a payoff that's not gonna happen. When the payoff is the Lyrans are going to be like, Lamau, we have a full regiment of mechs and we're just going to kill you all. And we also just signed fresh ink on a contract for the mercenaries on your planet as well. You might as well just fall back. Because like there's no way that the Ghost Dogs are beating a regiment, and if they do beat a regiment, or if the Lyrans are just like, oh, there's only like there's only a few mechs on the planet. There's only a few loose hangers on the planet. Fuck it. We'll just drop a couple of mechs. We'll just drop some light. We'll drop like a battalion. Then we'll fuck off back home. And then that's a closer fight. That's a more interesting encounter. But I don't think he's going to do that. I think it's going to be some bullshit nonsense where they like trap and kill and have kind of a Great Gash of Twycross moment, and it's just tedious, and I'm tired of it, and I'm not having very much fun with this book right now. So that being said, that is it for me tonight, guys. So thank you very much for turning up and listening to me vent my spleen about these particular chapters. It always makes me feel better when I do that because and I share this with you guys, and you guys say that can't be real, and I'm like, yes, that's real, and you're like, wow. And the fact that you guys have that reaction means that I'm not going insane, that I am actually reading something of no artistic merit or very minimal artistic merit. So that makes me happy. So Stormcrow, yeah, man, catch the VOD, you know, like, share, as ever, do the YouTube pleasantries, like, share, subscribe. If you like this content, or if you want me to keep doing it, I'm probably going to make Thursdays like my reading stream, where I read another book. I think somebody actually gave me a really good idea of like, hey, after you're done with this book, read something good that doesn't make you want to tweeze your taint hairs out. So I'm like, okay. So I think I'm going to read something better, which is a bar so low it might as well be in fucking hell. I'm going to read a better book after this so that I can actually bring that to you guys and actually enjoy with you guys the experience of reading the stuff. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for showing up. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, Wolves on the Border. Somebody was actually suggesting I read a Pardo BattleTech book, which would also be on the table. But yeah, hell yeah, Wolves on the Border. Fuck yeah, that's a banger book. That's amazing. That it's really funny because it's like you're reading this book and you can read it, and like Brian Young is desperately trying to be the woke guy, where he's including the people with the pronouns, he's including the people with different skin colors and all this different stuff, right? Where Wolves of the Border does that so just naturally. He does it. Robert Charette, I think his name, Charette. Is probably, speaking of French, Charette. He weaves this tale of Minobu Tetsuhura being such a great character, lots of nuance, and the fact that like one of the main points in that book is that he loses an arm, and like there's this prejudice built into Combine society about cybernetics and stuff like that, and the fact that that is an actual plot point that gets written into that book, and you can kind of see like how that's affecting his relationship with his wife and all these other things. It's such a wonderfully written book. It's short too, it's not that long, so I might actually read that instead, because that's the Wolves on the Border. There's like compared it to Ghosts of Timkovichi, Wolves on the Border, there's no fucking fat in that fucking book. It is all meat. It is 100%, lean. It is an exceptionally well done book. And the fact that that book was written back then, it had a diverse cast of characters, it had great villains, it had great heroes, it had a bittersweet ending, it had all of these components and things that made it such a terrific read. And then comparing that to Ghost of Timkovichi, that would be just such a fucking contrast in books. I think that's actually a great idea. So if you guys have books that you want me to go after I'm done with Ghost of Timkovichi, I would love to do kind of like we could even make it like a book club type thing on Thursday nights. That would actually be really, really chill. But yeah, so that's what we've got. That's what we've got for Ghost of Timkovichi this evening. I want to thank you guys for coming out. I want to thank you guys for watching and listening to me. As ever, I have my stream elements and my Ko-Fi in the link description. Thank you guys. Oh God, JC, no. You better fucking not. You better fucking not. That's all I gotta say, JC. But again, thank you guys so much for tuning in and coming on. And like I said, if you guys want to continue to support me doing what I do, stream elements link in the description, Ko-Fi link in the description. Thank you guys so much for turning up. I really appreciate it. You guys have a great night.